am so excited to have Ashlee Newberry here with me today. She is a German new medicine practitioner, expert, women's coach, coach in general, and she was a registered nurse turned to now a German new medicine coach after struggling with skin issues, acne in particular, for over 13 years. She was able to heal herself simply through these precepts. And it is an incredible story. She has some other incredible stories as well. I am so honored to have you on the podcast today. Thank you, Ashlee, for joining.
So excited to be here, Kelly. I haven't been interviewed on a podcast in a while.
Well, here we go.
Yeah.
Honestly, we girls, one of the reasons I do love your podcast, Freedom from Fear, the German New Medicine perspective, is that it those stories teach us so much.
hmm
We absorb through that. And I know in my life when I can remember the stories that I've heard on your podcast and go, "Oh my gosh, that's similar to what's going on right now for
hmm
me." Big ahas. Those are lessons that we can just put in our toolbox and carry with us. And you have an incredible story. How did you find German New Medicine? And share, I would love for you to share how you were able to heal yourself.
Yeah. So I found Germany medicine back in 2017. So it's been a few years. Actually through Dr. Melissa Sell. She was my chiropractor. We're both from Michigan. So I was seeing her in the office I was going to, and she kind of stepped back from the practice and had found it through a podcast she had listened to. And so I kind of just started working with her. We were kind of learning it together, actually. But I was still working as a nurse and not really sure what to do with this new wisdom that I was like, oh, this makes so much more sense. But yet I'm in this field where, I can't share this stuff or I'm going to get fired, or people are just going to look at me like I have three heads. And so I started learning from her and her partner Steve. Like they did a bunch of courses and stuff, and was just doing a lot of self study. And I didn't come to it from a like a chronic illness, I guess you would say, or like a dire situation or a cancer diagnosis or anything like that. But um, I had struggled with skin issues, mainly acne, for like you said, 13 years, long time. Had tried birth control, supplements, antibiotics, all of these creams and lotions and potions that, just bleached everything, dried out my skin, and nothing seemed to really work. And even, oh yeah, also elimination diets and, cutting out sugar, dairy, gluten, all the, you know, bad foods, doing air quotes for those listening. Um, and nothing really worked because it wasn't getting to the root cause. And so when I was learning German new medicine, and I learned, oh, acne is a feeling soiled, feeling attacked conflict, I was like, oh. And it was just, I remember even that moment of just this, whoa, that makes so much sense. And okay, you know, now how do I go about changing my perception so that I'm not feeling attacked all the time and feeling dirty and just like, especially working as a nurse. I worked in neuro, and so patients were not always all there mentally. And so, they're just saying stuff and they don't know what they're doing. And, other staff I'm working with is, they're tired and they're exhausted. And so I was always feeling attacked at work all the time. And then I'm dealing with lots of gross things too, bodily fluids and such, without getting into any details. And so, like, that environment also didn't help because I had all of these, um, you know, perspectives about myself and beliefs, like leading up to that, that then also that environment just also reiterated those conflicts. And so I did a lot of perception shifts, like, because I only stayed as a nurse for 6 months after learning GNM, because I just I just couldn't do it. I was
How
like,
long had you how long had you been in nursing before then?
2.5 years. So
Okay.
I was a nurse in total, yeah, just over 3 years. I did, I was a nurse's aide before that, so I'd been in healthcare for 8 years. So I had seen a lot. Um, and yeah, and I had already been feeling like I was just like the hospital setting wasn't right for me, but I'm also just like, well, I went to school for this and I paid money for this and like okay, I'm learning this new thing, but what do I do with it? And so it was a very confusing time for me because I felt like German new medicine, whoa, like it makes so much more sense. But in the current environment I was working in, I couldn't really apply it. I couldn't share it because it's not, people were not ready. They're not ready to take responsibility for their health, for their lives, for their triggers and perceptions. Like when they're in the hospital, they're in crisis mode. And also, like that's not the environment, like the hospital is not the environment where you can teach alternative views on health. It's
Can
all
before
about
we go
numbers and metrics and yeah. What are you gonna say?
totally, could you tell us a couple things? One of what just like we have an interview with Melissa Sell and went into German New Medicine and what it is. But you have like a brief, like 3 sentence sum up of what that perspective or paradigm shift is for someone who's just tuning in.
Yeah, yeah, great question. So German New Medicine is a map of the body and understanding our symptoms from the biological perspective, and that the your psyche or your subconscious, your brain, and your body are all connected. And so when you have something shocking, when something is distressing, isolating, and there's no way for you to move forward, that constitutes a conflict shock, which could be anything. Could be something very small, it could be a big life thing, um, anything in between. And so at that moment, when you have that conflict shock, whatever that might be, I'll give some examples later from my own life, that your body starts to adapt to help you deal with said situation shock, which could look like cellular increase in that part of the body, cell loss, and or a change in function. There's three different things that could happen depending on where in the body it's activated. And so your symptoms are actually there to show you what is going on in your psyche. And so when you have that conflict shock, you have this adaptation happening. It's usually imperceptible until there's a resolution, and that's usually when like 90% of the time we have symptoms is once you've resolved it. So once you've like oh, relaxed about something, you've changed your mind, maybe you've made up with your spouse, you got a different job, you went on vacation, and now you have all these symptoms, or maybe you have one symptom. And so that's where understanding that symptoms are actually a sign of resolution and repair, that little nugget alone can save you so much time and anxiety because you realize, oh, my body's not out to get me. There's a purpose for this, there's a reason, and it gives you an insight into yourself. Because when we have that conflict shock moment, no matter what the situation is, we're not we're not consciously deciding what program is going to run. Like we don't know necessarily in the moment um what that's going to trigger in the body, like what special biological program. I mean, we all have our pet conflicts, like what symptoms, you get easily or often, that are triggered, and it's different from person to person. But you don't necessarily know in the moment until you have that repair, that resolution phase, and then you have, maybe a stuffy nose, headache, diarrhea, vomiting, um, all number of symptoms, and then that points to the specific, oh, this is how my psyche interpreted this specific thing I just went through. But again, even in that moment of that conflict shock, even for me, and I've been studying this for 8 years, like I don't always know in the moment. I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh, I can predict it or just kind of know, like, oh, these kind of situations usually, then I'll have a stink conflict or something, and I'll have sinus issues later once I resolve it. But we can't predict it, right? So I know that was longer than a few sentences, but um,
Valuable.
yeah, yeah. um, so so
So
yeah, it's changed everything, to put it
how
lightly.
Oh, absolutely. That whole shift of not my body is going haywire and crazy, help give me something to make it stop, which
Hmm.
is what the normal medical paradigm that we see in the Western world. But it's instead of, oh my goodness, wow, my body was really stepping up to try to help me to be stronger, to be able to survive
Hmm.
this situation, and now it's repairing. And I think
Yeah.
that when it hits that repair mode where that is where we see symptoms, where we are feeling ill, quote unquote, that we can relax into it and say, "Oh, it's okay. This is just my rest time right now." I can, instead of worrying about, "Oh no, what's this going to turn into? Oh no, my body's being attacked." Really, it's that we're healing.
Hmm.
And then we can support ourselves. One of my favorite things is when someone had shared that what do you do when you have a diagnosis of something? Well, the best thing you can do is sit on the couch and watch Netflix. Just chill out and just relax and let your body continue to heal. I want to know more about the skin issue. Like, why is the skin creating acne when you have a
Mm,
conflict of being soiled or feeling attacked?
yeah, yeah. So I always describe this for clients or like in my workshops that this is an older brain program, and so when you have that conflict shock moment, let's say there is an unexpected argument with a partner and you're feeling attacked, and so in that moment during the argument, if this is the conflict shock that you're the program that you're running, you have an increase in cells to protect you from the attack. So the interesting thing about our biology is it's ancient, even though our conscious minds are very advanced. Our body is always responding to, is this a threat, or am I safe? Am I not safe? And it's always responding to a physical threat, even if it's a perceptual threat. So like your husband yelling at you isn't a literal attack, right? He's not like, stabbing you or something, or like, um there's not an actual physical attack, but our bodies are responding to it as if it was. So even if it's perceptual, we're still responding the same. So in that moment, okay, I'm feeling attacked. You have a skin buildup, and I liken it to like a shield. So like in medieval times, they have these shields so that like when there's a sword, that it can protect them from getting stabbed. Apparently, that's my example for today, is getting stabbed. But so what happens is you have this increase in cells, right, to protect you from the attack, and so then which is mostly imperceptible. Sometimes you can see if there's like an unevenness in like the skin texture. That could be when you're conflict active with this program and you haven't resolved it yet. But a lot of the times, unless you're conflict active for a long time, and or maybe you have like cystic acne, so then once you have the pimple, it's really intense. A lot of times you can't tell with that skin buildup. So so again, going back to this example, you're having an argument with your husband, you're feeling attacked, you have these skin buildup to protect you from the attack. And then let's say you make up that night, you realize, oh, it's a big misunderstanding, everything's fine, we're all good. And the next morning you wake up with several pimples on that side of your face, maybe where he was standing and you're feeling attacked, and or handedness does matter with this conflict. So like the right side would be like partner side for a right-handed person, and then left side would be mother child side. So but with skin stuff, it can also be like specifically like where did something touch me, or like it can be more like a localized conflict than always like partner or mother child side. So you wake up, look in the mirror, you're gonna brush your teeth, and you're like, ah, I have all these pimples, I have this acne. And until you know that, okay, the acne is actually the resolution. So the pain, inflammation, swelling, redness, bacteria, pus, all of that is part of the resolution, because all those skin cells, you no longer need that shield, that skin shield to protect you, because you're safe. You no longer need to be protected from your husband, for this example. And so, kind of like Pac-Man, those cells need to be broken down. So it's like the bacteria and the fungi, they go to work and they eat up those cells, and then you have to have this discharge so that it can be be broken down, and kind of like your skin to move past the healing phase. But the problem with this whole cycle is, if we don't understand it, or in my case, right, that then the acne itself becomes another track for feeling gross, feeling soiled, and there's more here. Like nothing's working, or right, like you feel distraught, or that was a lot of my experience, just feeling like, man, is it ever going to go away? Because nothing was working. And so and then using makeup to cover it up only does so much, because then it's like or I was feeling like, okay, yeah, maybe it looks more even color wise, but there's still bumps all over my face, so it's like I use the mirror as a tool to devalue myself, and to the mirror was my enemy, essentially, to show me what was wrong with my face, because I mostly had acne on my face. I mean, also my chest and my shoulders and back, but that wasn't as bad as my face, and my facial acne was what persisted. The other parts of my body, like, resolved mostly even before learning GNM, but it was more my face that was, and my like my jawline. And which, right, like you were saying before we started the interview, like it's not that I never have acne, but like you cannot tell that I used to have really bad acne. Like it's kind of insane.
Right, you're glowing. Her skin. If you aren't tuned into the YouTube video of this, she is like you would never guess. It's so beautiful, your skin.
That's wild.
So walk us through like how you're new to GNM, like you've been studying this for a while, a couple months. This is making so much sense. Again, you've tried everything that is under the sun, like holistic things, like in changing the diet and looking at your body as a whole system, elimination diets, as well as all the pharmaceuticals. And
Yeah.
nothing was really doing it. And they all had, like, I was on acne medication and did all that stuff as well. And yeah, I mean, that's intense stuff. And they make you basically sign paperwork that you're never going to try to get pregnant because this is so damaged. Like, how is it that we think it's okay to ingest or use that kind of stuff on our bodies when it can do that much harm?
Hmm.
And we're just like, oh, no, little girl, that's totally normal. It's normal to put all of these harsh things that can do irreparable damage on you just to try to stop some pimples. And yet, without anything but simply changing your perspective, you were able
Oh
to
yeah,
heal.
I didn't change. So after learning the basics of GNM, like the five biological laws, and starting to like um I was in some groups and stuff, and sharing with other men and women, and trying to just get to the bottom of what was going on with me. Yeah, I mean, I didn't change my diet. I didn't change anything else. Because I was like, oh, I mean, and none of that stuff had worked. So why
Right.
would I like restrict myself when that wasn't working anyway? And for some people that does, because that is a track for them. That is um and a track is a subconscious reminder of the original conflict, which could be anything, right? So this would be what Western medicine would call allergies. So we don't use the term allergies in German new medicine, but like anything that kind of triggers you into those symptoms or that conflict, whatever it might be, is called a track. And it's this reminder that, oh no, dairy is dangerous. Gluten is dangerous. Touching my, oh, I had a really interesting, I couldn't touch my face without breaking out. Like, because at some point, there was this story, I think from a family member, that was like, oh, just don't touch your face. And so then it was like my psyche had made that a track that it was unsafe to touch my face. And
Crazy.
so, right. Um, and so I was doing face yoga, and this was when I lived in Seattle. So I don't know, like 2019, like, because I hadn't had any breakouts in a long time. And then I was doing some face yoga where you're like, pressing into the face and like doing certain like muscle adjustments and stuff and certain exercises. And I was having breakouts and I was like, what the heck? Like, I haven't had acne in like a couple years now. What's going on, And it was like, oh, I still had this track of it's not safe to touch my face.
So
And
how
once
did
I
you
realized that,
yeah,
so
how go ahead.
how did I realize that?
Yes.
So, I think I was still in a Germany medicine, like some kind of group thing. I can't remember exactly. And because I was appalled. I was like, because I'm like, oh, I've already resolved this conflict. Like, oh, what is this? Why now? And I was a little bit annoyed. And I forget even who it was. In the group, they were like, oh, well, do you have, is there some type of story about touching your face? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, there
Ding.
is. And it was just like that alone, like shifted my perception. And then after that, because I was preparing for a photo shoot and like a business photo shoot in Hawaii. So I was like still gonna be doing face yoga for a while. Um, and so then after that, before I would do face yoga every morning, I would just remind myself, like, oh, it's safe to touch your face. Like, it's safe to touch my face. And just taking some time before doing the exercises to get my psyche on board that, like, it's okay. And it took a few times, but then after that, it was like, fine. So sometimes the awareness itself of the track, which in this case, for me wasn't quite enough. I needed a little bit more um, just practice and reminders for my psyche. Like sometimes, but sometimes just figuring out the track alone is enough to shift things. And then you never have the symptom with that particular track again. But sometimes it's not. It kind of depends. It's always an experiment of, yeah.
So let's rewind and let's go back to how you were able to heal earlier when you was like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
now I'm gonna try this out for myself. I'm still in nursing. You were still in nursing at the time, I'm guessing.
hmm
And yeah, so walk us through what that story was like.
So it was a daily process. Until learning German new medicine, I did not realize how many like thought loops or like tapes were playing that were about my skin. And I
Hmm.
was constantly cutting myself down in my head. So I had a lot of like actually tracks that were like thoughts or even seeing myself in the mirror. And so one of the things I did was I actually put like Christmas wrapping paper over my mirrors in my bathroom. And I mean, I still had like a little mirror to like do my makeup or to like do my hair or whatever before going to the hospital. But it was that seeing a glimpse of myself in the mirror without consciously choosing to look at myself, that was a track, that it was like I would see myself and ugh, like, oh, is that really my skin? Um, and so I had a lot of those kind of things with mirrors. And then I also interpreted a lot of conversations with people as attacks when they weren't necessarily, but because my perception was primed for that, then I was interpreting everything, almost everything as an attack, whether it was from family, friends, patients, other nurses, when I worked at the hospital. But right, when I worked at the nursing home before that as a nurse's aide, or even in school before that, like I got bullied a lot for my skin too, and I got picked on a lot, and so I was really, really self-conscious all the time. And it was like I was looking for the attack because I had felt that and experienced it so much. I was almost like preparing for that in every direction in my life, in every avenue. And so then what happens, but that's that self-fulfilling prophecy that then my psyche was like, "Yep, it's another attack. Let's go to work on the adaptation. Oh, there's another one. There's another one." So, I mean, I had like hundreds of tracks with this feeling soiled, feeling attacked. I mean, for me, it was kind of both because they're slightly different flavor. Um, and I think for me, the feeling attacked was kind of what started it, but then also then the acne itself became the another track for the feeling soiled, feeling gross, feeling dirty. Um, and yeah, like I remember like washing my face in the shower, um, and because I'm like, okay, I don't want this anymore. I don't need this anymore. And how can I shift how I see myself so that I don't keep triggering this? Because like, I don't want this. Um, and so I remember saying to myself when I was washing my face, like, I have glowing, radiant skin. And even though at the time I didn't, I was just like closing my eyes and like picturing it, feeling it, and how real could I make it, even if in the moment it wasn't true, and just to like keep my focus there and not let myself get derailed by how my skin was actually doing. And then something that really also helped me, which I did not want to do at the time, but I'm glad I did it now, is actually taking pictures of my skin like once a week without makeup. Because for me, I had so many tracks and so many things that triggered this conflict. Wasn't going to be an overnight thing. And so to see the progress was really helpful because it was like, oh, wow, okay, like something is shifting. I can literally see my skin getting better and not having so many pimples. But when you're in that and you see your skin every day and you're like, oh, it's still there, and you're not giving yourself very much grace or patience, it can be hard to focus on what you want because you're not seeing the progress as fast as you would like, or that was my experience. Um, and that has been true with other conflicts too. It's like we have to be patient because there's usually a lot more layers than maybe what we would think with especially any chronic symptoms. And so giving yourself that time and patience and grace is what's actually going to help you get through it faster, which I know is counterintuitive, but and I think for me too, the biggest perception shift and why I was even able to be open to German medicine was I was just like, well, maybe my skin's gonna be like this the rest of my life. I just ended up being in full acceptance at some point of just like, whatever. Like I'm done trying to fix myself and I don't really know what else to do, but like whatever. Like if this is the worst thing I'm gonna experience, like I'm still alive, I'm okay. And so I got to that point first, I feel like, and then, it was opening a can of worms when you start to look at the patterns and bring awareness to what's going on. But it was like, wow, if I can, through my perception, unconsciously create these conflicts, then like I can undo this. And that's the most powerful thing about learning this stuff is that it's not a way to feel bad about, oh, well, I caused myself to have this symptom, like, oh, woe is me. But it's like, oh, if this is coming from me, then I can create something else. And I'm not stuck. I'm not a victim that no one outside of me is to blame. And not that, you're to blame either. Like these are unexpected things and your body's just trying to help you. Um, but that there's no enemy. There's no one to blame. There's no boogeyman. There's no bad food, allergen, makeup product, face wash. I mean, that none of that stuff is the cause of skin issues. But if you think it is, then it's probably a track. So, oh, and then one more thing about that. So, what's interesting about tracks in general is that um, one person can have let's say, to milk or something, they can have a specific response to milk, and somebody else can have a different response. Let's say one person has digestive issues, someone else has a runny nose, and then the third person, they can drink it just fine. So, if milk was the problem, everyone would respond the same and have the same symptoms, but we don't see that, right? So, if you're someone listening that is, having a problem with a food or something else specifically that, um, maybe even your naturopath is saying like it's quote causing your whatever symptoms, like question that. And also, if that was really the problem, then everyone would have the same symptoms and would respond the same, which would be more like a poison, which is a totally um, different topic for a different time. But yeah, so it's not the milk, it's not the gluten, it's not the dairy, it's not the sugar, it's not the makeup product, it's not the face wash, it's not that you're not drinking enough water or you should be wearing more sunscreen or like none of those things are actually what's causing your skin issues. But it doesn't mean that any of those things are not necessarily contributing if you have tracks for those things. Does that make sense, Kelly? I want to make sure that I'm
Oh,
not.
yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. And that helps, I think, a lot of questions because some people's like, no, 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 I swear, every time I eat this thing, I have it, I can't eat pizza because I'm going to break out and I'm going to be the actual pizza face. And, and it's not the
Yeah,
pizza, but it is your relationship with, it's your relationship with the pizza.
exactly.
Yes, yeah, you are anti-pizza because you think it's going to do this thing to you. And I mean, what's so crazy is how amazing our brains are. Our great big beautiful brains are are so complex and they can take, say, an instance that someone did eat pizza. They were at a party, they're a teenager, they're, budding relationships and interest in other people and somebody makes some snide comment about you as you're eating your pizza and you feel attacked and soiled. And now, with this pizza in hand, as you're eating it, all of a sudden now, every time you eat pizza, you start breaking out because your body
Hmm.
says, oh, remember that time where you felt attacked? Pizza was
Exactly.
involved. Pizza's part of the picture. So I know every time you have pizza, I need to make sure that we get you protected. We're going to thicken that skin. We're going to make sure you can't be, your skin can't be penetrated by that attack. So
Hmm.
it's just brilliant on how our bodies work, but also really infuriating at the same time because you're like, how is that helping me? How are you helpful? That's not at all. And that's, I think, like exactly what you're saying. When the healing symptoms come up, and for us, for skin, that's the inflammation, that's the pus, that's the bacteria, that's all of that. We have an adverse reaction emotionally, mentally to that and go, oh, are you kidding me? And then we get stuck in those tracks. Something I
Hmm.
want to run by you. Did you ever, I remember when I was in high school, I had a lot of acne, especially on my forehead. And I swear that it has something to do with feeling dumb. Like it's
Hmm.
intellectual,
Hmm.
like
Yep.
feeling like here I am, really dumb. And oh, see, that's so you
Yep.
have heard
Yeah,
or
different parts of the face mean different things. And actually I noticed for me that like whenever I would have acne on my neck or
hmm
like on my throat, it was this flavor of almost like anticipating getting attacked for saying something.
Ooh.
Not even that wouldn't even always happen, but sometimes it did, especially the couple extended family members. That after I would leave their house, I would have like little tiny breakouts, like just on my neck and my throat area, nowhere else. And it was always about my relationship to speaking my mind and saying what I wanted to say and not trying to cause chaos or arguments, but just like they're old school in a lot of ways and just, stuck in their perceptions and beliefs. And I was challenging that and it was uncomfortable for them. And they were not always necessarily nice on how they responded. But even for me, like, because growing up, like speaking up for myself wasn't really celebrated or really allowed. And so I know for me a lot like that was the longest that it that took the longest to kind of go away was more on my throat area and my neck. Um because I also just had this perception that because of my previous experiences, especially as a child, not being allowed to speak my mind and say what I needed to say, that I would anticipate that reaction from everyone. Even if I didn't get it, I would still have a breakout even if they didn't respond that way because I was almost preparing for that. My psyche was like on the lookout for it. Even if people responded well, I would still have a breakout because it was all in how my psyche was interpreting and kind of setting me up for it. And that was always so wild to me because I'm like, nothing even happened. Like, come on, psyche, like what's going on? But that's where, right, we have the power to shift that. And it doesn't mean that those foods are not that you're not having symptoms when you eat the pizza, like Kelly's saying, but that it's really not about the pizza. It's about your relationship to it. But right, that could be anything. It could be a family member, it could be a time of year, time of day, maybe even around your period. Do you feel gross when you get your period? Do you feel gross about being a woman and the fact that you even have a period? Like there can be so many layers to even just one conflict because we have these big beautiful brains, and especially for us women, we're so good at perceptual resolutions, but then also there's a kind of a downside that it's easier for us to have conflicts based on our perception, more so than men. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword. And that's why, especially for women particularly, shifting your perception is so powerful. And even just, having one other person in your life that knows GNM or someone on social media or just like having someone else that understands the biological language and understands what this all means because it is like learning another language. Um that's really powerful because that can help you get to that repair and resolution because you have someone to share it with that understands what the heck you're talking about.
So, what do you recommend for women that are wanting to learn more about German new medicine, how to be able to resolve their own conflicts, to create more peace in their body, and to have healing experiences, to be able to be in the driver's seat in their body and not have to to feel like you're in the back and you're like there's no one driving the car and it's just this chaotic,
Mm.
crazy, scary place. And just a comment on all of those industries, the makeup, everything, the medical, all of that is aimed at um, fear, really, helping us to be afraid that we are not responsible or have any control, and these things just happen out of the blue, and you just hold on, trust us, come sit in the chair, we've got it covered, don't
Pay
ask
some money.
questions. Yep. And those are, multi-billion dollar industries for a reason, and they are all based on fear. And this is why this is such dangerous and fabulous information, of being able to break that perspective and say, guess what? No, you and your beautiful body, and your big, beautiful brain, it, that your body is here to help you survive and thrive. And that the more that you can live in line with how you are designed, and the more you can get rid of these tracks, these different conflicts that we've accumulated through our life experience, and that it is incredible the way that just shifting a perspective can change everything, and especially on how our body is feeling, how we are
Mhm.
responding to stuff. And it's simple, and it's it's so empowering, and that is what this podcast is all about, is how to be radically self-responsible and live fully and within an alignment. So what do you suggest for women who are wanting to know more?
Yeah. Well, I think like Kelly shared at the beginning, I actually have my own podcast, Freedom from Fear, a German New Medicine podcast. And so if you're just starting out, and then I know that you had Melissa Sell on your podcast, which she did a intro to GNM. We have a lot of stories on the podcast, specifically about like each episode, we kind of focus on like different symptoms or different resolution stories. And you can search. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And so, like, if you're dealing with, allergies or UTIs, or we even talk about cancer in one of the episodes, and just all kinds of different symptoms that you may be struggling with. So that's a good free resource. And then also, I provide like one-on-one coaching for clients, and then I also have workshops every month. It's a German New Medicine Women's Circle, and I choose a different topic every month, based on requests or what I feel like I am getting a lot of questions on. And actually, later this month, August 21st, I am hosting my next, they're called Connect the Dots. And I'm actually doing it all about relationships, and how, as women, when we understand what our role is as women and understand men's role, and understand the biological differences of how we're wired and what we're wired for, we can actually avoid a lot of conflicts, because there's not so much misunderstanding or miscommunication between the men in our lives. And that doesn't even have to necessarily be partners, but even you know, um, brothers, fathers, co-workers, your sons, and then also understanding role as women and how that can help you in your relationships with women as well. Because for women, because relationships are a biological need for women, which is actually different than it is for men. Women need men, but men don't need women in the same way. The hierarchy is actually different. And so most of our conflicts as women stem from relationships and issues in relationships, especially with your romantic partner, husband, boyfriend, partner. And so yeah, I'm super excited to I'm gonna be doing like a whole series on this, because there's so much there. And but then connecting it to like how we have specific symptoms based on how we interpreted something in relationship miscommunication, and how you can start to shift out of that, so that maybe the same situation happens with your husband, even that situation I said about the argument, right? Maybe you don't even have a conflict at all, right? Which is ideal. And I mean, I always say to my clients, like, my role is to help you and give you the tools so that you don't need me anymore. And nobody in the holistic or Western medicine is saying that, because that's not their role, right? They're trying to keep you coming back. And so my role as a coach and an educator is to support you through that healing, right? And to provide community for not just connecting with me, but with other women that are also learning and applying this in their own lives, because it's pretty different, radically different, than most of the world is operating. And so that alone can be isolating. So just providing that community and that space to share, be supported, get your questions asked, yeah, has been really fun. And if you're in Michigan and you're listening, I'm doing the workshops in person and online, so it's a hybrid. So anyone can join. Um, and yeah, I'm excited to be starting those up again, because it's been a few months since I just moved recently. So
So exciting. And I will
yeah.
have links to everything that Ashlee referenced, her podcast, her website, so you can work with her individually, and then also her amazing coaching group that you can attend as well in person or virtually, which is just so. And I wanted to note on that, and you were talking about healing comes out of isolate, like when you
In
come
community.
into community. Yeah, that would be the opposite of what I meant or said, but yes, when we come into community we can heal. And it's just like in biblical reference, when like when you're able to confess, you share something, you share your problem, your issue, your heartbreak with someone else, the relief and the healing balm that that creates of, I'm not alone, I am not
Mhm.
invisible, I am seen. And just being held in that space, and that what you're offering is so invaluable. And that does, like, so much healing happens simply by being seen and heard. So yeah, girls, I highly encourage you to hop in, especially on the one that's coming up next week with, it's next week, yes,
Yeah,
the
I guess it's
21st.
next week.
Oh my goodness, it's upcoming. Super
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Ashlee, for sharing your heart, your story, and to the basics of how we can be biologically in sync with ourselves instead of constantly at war with our bodies. It's just a
Mhm.
beautiful thing. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, Kelly. This has been really fun.
A delight.